morning. Good morning, Bullhorn Betty. We're covering the cases of Sebastian Rogers, Lily and Jack Sullivan, and of course the Decker sisters. So, because these cases are all three very much high profile cases, this one channel cannot support all three cases. So I have decided from today, this is kind of, we're going to go through all the updates in the Decker case, but we're going to be discussing the Decker sisters on the Bullhorn Betty crime stories, and we're going to continue to discuss Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers and Lily and Jack Sullivan here on the main channel on the Bullhorn Betty show. So if you have not, and the reason why I'm telling you guys this, so if you guys would like, the same rules are going to be applied over there on that chat. That means one day before you can chat. So we're not going to be doing a live on the Decker sisters on that other channel until tomorrow. It should give you guys all an opportunity to get over there and sub up. So today we'll be running on this channel unless there's some breaking news on an off case, then we'll be doing that on the crime story side. But this morning, good morning everyone. We're going to be starting off and kicking off today's show with Sebastian Rogers. We're going to go into the updates of Lily and Jack Sullivan, and then we're going to have the bulk of our conversation on the Decker sisters, the manhunt for Travis Decker right now, and whether he's dead or alive. We also think we found something. I want to show you guys some maps and some information and get your take on it, because this is really all hands on deck when it's coming to Travis Decker until he's found, until he's brought to justice, or we know what happened to him. We're not going to stop looking for him because three beautiful girls are no longer, and it sounds like, you know, he is not, at least his ex-wife is trying to paint the picture that he's not the monster that the world is seeing right now. And so we want to learn a little more about what happened, what brought us to this point. We're finally starting to get a little insight from Whitney. You know, Whitney is explaining how we got here. And it's just heartbreaking. And the strength of this mother, it just, I don't know where she gets it, but God bless her, and we'll get into it. The real Me Too up in the house. Janice, good morning. Donna, excuse me. It's nice to see you. The real Me Too, good morning. Tammy, yes, they will find him, but what happened in Charleston, Lanson, every American should be scared. That was after our cartel party. Yes, they got 80, but they have warrants for 190. That's still 110 out. I don't know what that's really about. I guess I'll have to look into it. If you want to send me something to Bullhorn Betty, I'm happy to look it up. Also, everybody, TGIF. Happy Friday. Melanie, it's nice to see you. Good morning, my love. Libby, good morning. It's nice to see you as well. Carla, Eeyore Blues, it's nice to see you. Unicorn, Indiana. True Crime Junkie, Robin Woods, it's nice to see you. Little Orange Man, good morning. TD Dean. Siblings Remorse, wouldn't Derek's sister be his mom as well? I'm a bit confused on the title. Let me see what my title is real quick. Did I misspell something? Hold on. Let me find out. It does happen. Is Travis Decker? No, I don't think I changed. I don't think I have the wrong title. We're going through some other stuff. Derek's sister be his mom as well. I don't know who Derek is, I guess is my question. YouTuber, good morning. Oh, Robin gifted a Bullhorn Betty membership, and Tammy, you received that gifted Bullhorn Betty membership. Welcome to this crazy family we call the Coffee Club, i.e. the insane asylum. Grab your straight jacket and your padded room, and welcome to the crazy house. Rebecca, it's nice to see you. Good morning. Good morning. Plant Lady, Jessica, it's nice to see you. Cece, Phil from across the pond. Good morning. I don't know if it's Johnny or Joni, but good morning. I think it's Joni. Good morning. I think that's it. Good morning, everyone. So, again, we're going to be discussing the Decker sisters on Bullhorn Betty crime stories. But if you don't know the case about Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, we're going to go through a little intro before we get into the Decker sisters. He disappeared last year in 2024 and was reported missing on February 26. Many believe he disappeared on February 25th from inside his locked home. Many people believe his mother and stepfather are responsible for his disappearance. His father, Seth Rogers, has been adamant in looking for his son. He has pulled out all the stops. He's is working with a national spokesperson. He's working with an intelligence agency. He has a private investigator. Just a whole host of people really advocating and working for his father to try to find answers and locate his son, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. All such efforts have failed. There is something just not right in this whole Sumner County story, from the sheriff's behaviors. The parents' behaviors have been ungodly, but the sheriff's behaviors, the state attorney's behavior, the silence, it doesn't feel like an investigation, not an investigation that we're accustomed to in the true crime community. It really feels like law enforcement has intentionally shelved this case. And it makes you wonder why. There has been no additional search efforts for Sebastian, yet he remains missing. And Tennessee being a no body, no crime or no prosecution type of state, it makes you understand how Sebastian being found is paramount to anything going further in this case. And so when you hear that we're 15 and 16 months into a case and there has been no additional searches based upon any of the evidence that they have received, we know this child never walked out of the home because he's allegedly barefoot. And if not barefoot, in some type of sock, right? That is prime for great scent for dogs. Yet no dog smelt his scent. There were cameras that appeared to go from the side of the Proudfoot home through a common area on the side of another owner and a back side of another between two homes to an unknown car that was kind of right off Kellen. It was kind of on the corner, but not. Kellen is the main road that goes into their community. However, they're on Stafford Court. So the car actually made the turn onto Stafford Court, but really stayed very, very, very close to the road on Kellen. And it appeared that they intentionally tried to not get caught in the camera of the house right there on the other side of the street on Kellen and Stafford. But they did. And so that has caused a lot of speculation, because when you do the time, you can clearly see if they got off the phone around 11:30, anywhere before midnight. The timeline does allow for Mr. Proudfoot to make his way from Horn Lake to their house, have time to go in the house, do some things in the house, get in the car, and turn around and go straight back to Mississippi, and still have another 15 to 30 minutes to spare, depending on the travel and the time. So we do have a timeline that does provide a window of opportunity for Chris to make his way from Mississippi to Hendersonville and back to Mississippi. And then their behavior, as well as all of their inconsistencies, and immediately speaking about Sebastian in the past tense, and continuously fighting themselves to not speak about Sebastian in the past tense. Oh, thank you, Tammy. Tammy gifted a Bullhorn. Oh, I think Grave Crime with Grace did as well. Gifted a Bullhorn Betty membership. If you received your Bullhorn Betty membership, please don't forget to tell Grave Crime with Grace and Tammy Thank you. And for the 6 people that just received their gifted Bullhorn Buddy membership, welcome to this crazy family we call the Coffee Club, i.e. the Insane Asylum. Grab your straight jacket in your padded room and welcome to the crazy house. If there was evidence Sebastian left the house, police wouldn't have found it. There's only the 3:11 a.m. vehicle. I don't know. I don't know. I think there are some cameras in that community that picked up some stuff. I think the community over on the other side, and I pray to God law enforcement went over there and asked them for footage as well of that night, because I think that construction site holds the key. And why do I say that? Because when we hear the mob crew describe how this car went into the community, it didn't immediately turn on Stafford, which is what you would be accustomed to if they knew where they were going, right? They went all the way up to Devon, and Devon is the area that that where the construction site, you turn right and you're into the construction site. And what I find a little odd about this case is that the dogs went over to that construction site, and the car originally came into the community and went up to Devon before turning around and going to that park spot. Did they pick up somebody there? Were they dropping somebody off there? We never thought about that. Maybe we didn't see. Maybe that wasn't the first time the car was there. We only have that snippet. We're completely removing the fact that the car may have been observed in that area earlier or later. And law enforcement may have it. We may see a bunch of different cars going into the community, later at night. We don't have that footage, but law enforcement would. So I'm hoping that they got some footage over there in that construction community, because I believe somebody also came in from that construction community. That would explain the dogs and why the dogs stopped at a specific spot. I believe there was a vehicle at that specific spot, but whose vehicle was it? So that implies that there may have been a secondary vehicle, in my opinion. Just saying. Because why would that car go up to Devon? And why would the dogs come from the house, through that common area, down the road of Kellen, and turn on Devon into that construction site? It never made sense before. But what if? What if? The dogs picked up no scent he left the house, no footage, nothing. Right, but they did pick up a scent because the dogs did track something from that house. But law enforcement is adamant that it was not Sebastian. I'm just happy I can finally do. Aw, that's so sweet, Tammy. Thank you. Ellie needs to get something going. They have been doing no searches for the. They have not. That's why I have been just like, we need to do something. We need to do something. We need to let them know we're not letting go of this child's face or this child's case. Somebody knows something. That county holds a lot of secrets. I'm so sorry, but Sumner County, there's just something not right there. I don't know what it is. It is not just the Proudfoots and Bowersocks. Okay? There's something more going on. And I don't know what it is. But something just isn't right in that county. I'm just saying. I know what I know. I don't know how I know it. I'm just telling you. My gut is telling me there's something more. And you got freaking houses going boom? I don't know. Like I said, my county has grown. When I was born in this county, I think we had, I don't know. Let's find out. We ain't got nothing but time. It's Friday. Let's take our time and find out. Let me just give some factual information. What was the population in Manatee County, Florida in 1979?
143,600.
Maybe it's Bradenton. Okay, either way, let's do Manatee County. We'll do Bradenton separately. So 143, and I think that's wrong. Hold on, let me just. What was the population in Bradenton, Florida in 1979? Okay, that didn't get it. Let's try it again. What was the population in Bradenton, Florida in 1979? There it is. Okay. Here's the population. So in 1979, we had 27,860 residents in this county. So let me go over here and find out what is the population in 2024, because that's the only thing we would have. So 27,000. Now I think it is Manatee County. I think I'm confusing the two. So it sounds like we had 143,000 people in Manatee County in 1979. So let's find out what it is for 2024. Because we've grown. I mean, we've grown exponentially here in this county. Yeah. So we're at 458,352 residents in the county from 149,000. So we originally had 149,000, and today in 2024 we have almost 500,000 people, right about 458,000 residents in Manatee County. I can't tell you when the last time we had a house explode in Manatee County, let alone having 2 homes go boom in less than a year. And this one I'm hearing, is not intentional. The first one was, and it sounded like it might have been a boyfriend, something or other, I don't know, ex-roommate or something like that. I can't remember the details of it, nor is it part of the Sebastian Rogers case, other than it was involved in the same time, just didn't look right. And then this one, it looked like it leveled that house, like boom. I mean, I'm surprised that only 1 or 2 people got injured. We heard of zero loss of life, thank God. But wow. And this is another one in Sumner County, which I'm just hearing might be a little bit bigger. I thought it was only 57,000 people in the town, but somebody's saying there's like 200,000 people in the county of Sumner County. Let me find out how many people are in Sumner County. They said it was like much higher than I had thought, because I thought I researched it and it didn't sound like that, but I guess yeah, it is. So the whole entire county, encompassing county, they have like 200 something thousand. I was thinking they only had 50 or 80,000 or something like that. So much larger of a community than I thought, but still not as large as Manatee County where I live, and I don't hear a whole lot of things going kaboom. I'm just saying. Is Maurice? I don't know. I think I always make or mistake that because you're from Australia. I don't know how to say your name. It's driving me nuts. So thank you for gifting 5 Bullhorn Betty memberships. If you received your Bullhorn Betty memberships, don't forget to just tell Maurice. I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry. Watch. If you want to email me the pronunciation, I promise once I hear it, I won't forget it, and I will say it. I just have a problem with it, but my Hooked on Phonics is broken, so forgive me. And for those that received it, welcome to this crazy family we call the Coffee Club, i.e. the Insane Asylum. Grab your straitjacket and your padded room, and welcome to the crazy house. What else do we have here? Brave Crime with Grace, it's nice to see you. He handed it in. The police came and collected it themselves. The fog jumped into. The dog jumped in too, yeah. They said it was a false positive. So I really truly believe that was somebody else's scent from the house. Just that's what I'm kind of gathering. Just my I roll with Betty's channel every day. Oh, thank you, Common Sense, and thank you for being a member for 2 months. I appreciate it. God bless you. God bless you. All right, so let's take some more time so we can go ahead and get on into the Decker sisters. We have there's not really a whole lot of new information on the case of Lily and Jack. If you guys haven't heard the case of Lily and Jack, they're out of Nova Scotia. They're 2 siblings that disappeared allegedly on May 2nd. The weird thing about this particular case is like mom took a hiatus, like she just up and left on May 3rd, and nobody has seen or heard from her since. So naturally, the public opinion of the mother is very low. And of course, as the true crime community is gathering information and people are getting in contact with other people and getting some more insight, we're learning a little more about Daniel as well as Malaya. Daniel is the stepdad, kind of, sort of. He never married Malaya, but him and Malaya both have a child together that's 16 months old, and her name, 17 months old now, and her name is Meadow. And Daniel is now very, very concerned about the well-being of Meadow due to Malaya's mental health. But there are, and citing that the mental health problems that she's facing right now is a direct result of the commentary on social media to boot. But in all fairness, that's a lot of weight, in my opinion, to put on social media, because at the end of the day, we have 2 beautiful children that have vanished unexplained. Nobody has been able to tell us whether they were abducted, whether they wandered off, or whether they were met with foul play. The only thing that we have been able to eliminate as a possibility, according to law enforcement, is the possibility of an abduction, leaving them wandering off, or foul play, which are 2 polar opposites when it comes to possible resolutions in this case. And so when you don't have a whole lot of information, a lot of the public, including people that talk about true crime, as well as media, other traditional media, are looking at the behavior of the parents, at the behavior of law enforcement, at the behavior of the state or prosecuting type of body entity. And we look at those things because usually they can help guide us in identifying where we may be in the case and lack of information. And so one of the very first things that we heard is that Malaya took off. That while they were giving the briefing on her children, I believe it might have even been the very first briefing on her children, she ended up leaving the briefing, going to an ambulance, waiting inside the ambulance until her mom took her. Originally, my understanding is she was supposed to go to a friend's house. She was going to stay at a friend's house for a few days and had her car there or something like that. Now, this is all information I'm hearing. And she ended up leaving with her mom, and they ended up having to get a tow truck to tow her car to her mother's house. That's how abruptly the plans of where Malaya was going to be staying happened. So this is all really, really strange behavior. And then as soon as mom got in the picture, grandma wasn't acting normal either. Grandma's not acting like a normal. We've dealt with grandmas all the time. Look at Elijah Vu's grandmother. Elijah Vu's grandmother was the fighting force in all those searches and keeping those searches alive and keeping the volunteers engaged, because she was not giving her daughter a pass by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, she was working with law enforcement to help her daughter speak up. She was giving them insight into her daughter. She was the fighting force. She wanted to know what happened to her grandson. So we've seen the fight in grandparents in some of the true crime cases that we've covered. And we've seen other grandparents, stay, emotionally silent on the sidelines in the backgrounds. But in this case, we don't see any grandparent really active in these children's life, except honestly their biological father's mother. She's been very vocal in trying to understand what happened to her grandchildren. She's acting like a grandparent, that I would kind of expect. However, I think she gives her son too much of a pass. And, she's not really coming clean with her son's history and why he wasn't involved in these children. He had the ability to demand a court to allow him to be more involved in his kid's life. So why wasn't he pursuing, things like that? That's we've got to look at that. But in all fairness, his mother, she wants to know what happened to her grandchildren. So we have people on the biological father's side, really trying to find out answers. It appears that Daniel Martell, which is these children's, labeled stepfather, he seems and has been vocal and out in the public light. He seems like he's trying to find out answers to what happened here. And then we got his family, like his cousin. I'm hearing that she's pretty vocal in trying to figure out what happened to this, and giving people a little insight on what Daniel's going through, and a little insight on the family dynamic, and maybe some of the historical information that we wouldn't have otherwise related about these families and about the relationship, say, with Malaya and her mother. It sounds like, from what Malaya has conveyed, or maybe even what people have seen with their own eyes, have stated that her mother's very manipulative. Now, again, I don't know these people. These are not my words. I'm not saying that about Malaya's mom. I'm just conveying what I've heard out there in the public, and from people that are allegedly close to this case. But that's what, and that causes concern, because we've got a grandmother that also isn't acting appropriately for the situation at hand, that, based upon some of the descriptions that people are conveying to the public that they've witnessed firsthand, don't really bode in that grandmother appearance of concern for her children. As a matter of fact, her appearance in her behavior is more of a protection of her daughter from, it seems like she's trying to keep her daughter to shut up, not say anything, the things that go across, that are conveyed to the public as, guilt of something that could get her in legal hot water, right? It sounds like her mom's trying to protect her from legal hot water, from a legal quagmire. And it just so happens that she's missing 2 children. Could that be the legal quagmire that her mom's trying to protect her from? I don't know. We're just hearing all this stuff and collecting information, as much information as we can possibly collect, to kind of understand this case. And another thing that we're learning is that sometime after Meadow was born, Daniel had described to several people this, what I would describe as a complete and utter detachment from her older children, where she took all of her time and focused and energy on her baby child. And many people do that because younger children need a little more care, and it happens with all siblings, where they have like a little sibling jealousy because the baby's getting all the attention and stuff like that. But it sounds like this was more on the unhealthy side. It sounds like she didn't want any more to do with the children, that she stopped, feeding the children. It sounded like feeding the children were his responsibility. She stopped going outside to watch the children play. That she was all overly consumed with Meadow. And so that was, when I started hearing that is really some of the things that we had identified in Leilani Simon's case. And we know the outcome of that case, because she's spending the rest of her life behind bars for unaliving her 20-month-old son. And she did it while her boyfriend slept, and disposed of him while her boyfriend slept. So I'm super, super concerned, because when you start applying some of the details and experiences we've had in the Quentin Simon case, And you start seeing these things with Malaya. You know, she was the one that engaged, according to her statement, she's the one that engaged Daniel that the kids, nobody could hear the kids. Where were the kids? Right? She was the one that said that she's looked over at Daniel saying, do you hear them? And he went out and realized they're not there, and they both jump up to go look for the kids. She immediately called law enforcement, allegedly. And we're also hearing that 10 a.m. phone call to law enforcement might not be accurate either. But that's all that can be said. So it sounds like, you know, when I'm starting to hear some of these things being leaked and getting out there to the public, I kept saying that, you know, Daniel's hitting all the boxes in the right spot. Hey, SRK, it's nice to see you. Robin Ward, it's nice to see you as well. I think I said hi to you, Grave, but maybe not. Passion, Luminol, it's nice to see you. Hearing that someone disposed of another human being. It is. It is. But this is the world we live in. You know, unfortunately, statistics are very, very, very high. It sucks, quite frankly. It is sickening. There is no doubt about that. But, you know, we're hearing that this was an unhealthy, you know, at least the way it was conveyed to me, or the way I conveyed it, or not conveyed it, but I internalized it and filtered the information and analyzed the information. It sounded to me unhealthy. Okay. We have her leaving, which again kind of comes back to this whole Katie Proudfoot, Chris Proudfoot, because most parents don't leave. Most grandparents aren't concerned about somebody holding their phone and typing something into somebody else's phone. I thought that was very, very, very bizarre. But Daniel is the one that I kept saying when I watched his interviews that he's hitting all the boxes in the right spot. You know, he's hitting all the boxes in the right spot. But there's just something that's not right. And I know I've said it multiple times, so if you guys have been here, you guys know, you guys have been part of the conversation. And so I didn't know what it was, but just something isn't right with me. And even though he's hitting all these boxes in the right spot, there's just still something unsettling about, you know, him and his behavior. There's still just something that's off-putting for me, and I don't know what it was. And I, you know, kept analyzing it and processing it within me, and I thought maybe it was a bias toward, you know, maybe the substance abuse stuff of it, and that might have been my bias, because I feel like it creates like this manipulative person, or could, and we don't know this, and is that what we're facing here? Just somebody that's highly manipulative and very cunning and conniving. And believable. But then as information started coming out, I kind of started feeling like it really wasn't that I feel like he knows something. But I think that what it is now is this detachment, like this unhealthy detachment that he was in denial of, maybe. You know, that maybe he saw signs of this stuff going on long before it got here, and maybe he had some guilt associated with that, and trying to play off that aspect of it for the search, and that might have been the deception we were feeling. Now, I don't know if that's the case, and I might be giving him a pass when he doesn't deserve one, and maybe up to his neck involved in why they're gone. But, you know, I am trying to process all of this, and as information is becoming available, things are becoming a little clearer. But I'm really starting to have this gut feeling of this breakdown of Malaya after Meadow was born, and the breakdown of her relationship with children. I mean, we looked at some of the pictures of her with her kids, and you could see the pride in her eyes and how proud she was of her children. You know, we look back in 2013, I think it was, where we saw this, 16-year-old, bubbly girl that loved art, tattoos, and animals, and she was very approachable and sweet and tender-hearted, right? And when we see videos of that, and then having to see that like 10, 11, 12 years ago, and then we're looking at her as possibly potentially having something to do with the disappearance of her kids. It's almost a polar opposite of one another. It just doesn't fit, and we have to think, what could cause this in such a matter of a couple years. And it could be abuse and depression. It could be, she had the child, something to do with postpartum depression. We heard that she had a horse injury. Could that have affected her mobility? Could it have gotten worse as she started getting older? And, how did we get here? And why are we looking at this doughy-eyed, 16-year-old girl, fast forward 12 years and looking at her like she could have something to do with her children, the disappearance of her children. It's hard to process, and I get it, but we're seeing some major behavioral shifts in her. Could she have had some unexplained or undiagnosed mental illness that went unchecked? Maybe something that was created by, the pharmaceuticals that she may have had to take for her back issues. There's a lot. I would love to think all these children are alive and well and being hidden, but I know exactly. I know that's it right there. It's hard. It is. It sucks. Like I said, it's frustrating because sometimes I feel like we say the same story like over and over and over and over again. It's just the thumbnails and the beautiful little faces just change. I feel like it's the same repeating story with a few differences, but it's just different faces. It's bothersome. I mean, for this not to bother people, I don't know. Just it's very bothersome. I will never understand how parents could just. That's where, and that's the problem. Everybody's looking at Malaya because she left. Now she could turn around and just be a part of. I think it'd be very difficult, for her at this point because it's been over a month, and there's just no excuse, zero excuse. And if she's listening to her mother, her mom might be not providing her the best advice. If she's listening to her attorney, her attorney's trying to protect her rights, but it's not stopping her attorney or her mother from coming out and speaking on her behalf to lower the temperature of the public. Maybe there is a reasonable explanation we are not entertaining or have no idea or knowledge about, that could make all the difference in the world of how the world views Malaya. But right now, she's been an absent mom. And so was Katie Proudfoot and Christopher Proudfoot. While Seth was trying to turn over every single rock, they were MIA, and they've been MIA. And many of the public believes they're responsible for Sebastian's disappearance. Malaya's missing while Daniel's in the spotlight begging people to believe that he had nothing to do with this disappearance, so much so he took a polygraph test and allegedly passed. And the only person we have never heard from again is their own mother. Why would their own mother be accusing, or her family, accusing Daniel of having something to do with the disappearance of these children if they were both together, in the bed together, and these children did just wander off? She would know in her heart without a shadow of a doubt that her children are out in that woods and just need to be found. And there would be zero accusations, and if there were, she would nip that in the bud very quickly. And she's not doing that. she's almost trying to point the finger as if Daniel did have something to do with these children. So much so that while she took off on the 3rd, she decides to shut her Facebook down. When it comes back up again, she is single and has blocked Daniel. Those are some pretty clear indicators that she's trying to block Daniel out of her life after her children disappeared. Why? To have the appearance he's responsible. Why would she want to have the appearance that he's responsible if she was in bed with him that morning and knows darn good and well those children were in that house that morning, and they must have gotten out of that sliding glass door and must have wandered off? Those are her statements. So the behavior the behavior is not equaling the statements. So no new information on this. I haven't heard of any new searches going on, which is again heartbreaking. We haven't really heard any more from Daniel other than he's concerned about Malaya's mental health and would like people not to attack her. I don't think discussing it in this way is attacking her. I think we're talking about public opinion and stuff like that. I definitely don't think anybody needs to be going on her private page and saying nasty stuff to her. If you have your opinion about her, it's fine to have the opinion, but keep it clean. Keep it on these channels that allow you an outlet to have those very opinionated opinions. We don't really know what happened, and I can honestly say that if I really thought we had a good understanding, much like we do in the Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers case, our conversations would be different. But right now we just don't have that ability to, other than poor behavior from a young mom, a mom that knows better. So that's really all we have. Does it lead me to believe that she knows more? Absolutely, but it's not definitive, and our feelings can't equal fact. So we have to process this stuff properly. Otherwise, we don't get to the truth. So yes, I do believe these are problematic things, but only time will tell what they truly mean. Yes, sus behavior. Exactly. So thank you for allowing me to bend your ear. So now we're going to get into the case of the Decker sisters. There is a manhunt underway right now for Travis Decker. Travis Decker is accused of unaliving his 3 beautiful children. We're learning a lot. I don't know. Again, my heart bleeds for Whitney Decker. This is the girl's mother. I'm speechless as to what you can say to a woman that has lost so much. My heart bleeds. It really does. It aches. And my ache is got to be so small compared to what she's feeling. I don't know. Speechless when it comes to Whitney, but she is brave and she has strength. I don't know where this strength is coming from, but she has strength, and she has made a statement to the world because she wants the world to know what she went through, the fight that they had, the help that never came, and the children she lost because of it. She doesn't blame the court systems, from my understanding. She blames the system. Apparently he was in Afghanistan, so he did witness a lot. He fought for our country, and he came back messed up because of it. And it sounds like he desperately tried to seek help. Believe it or not, he initiated the divorce with her. So he knew that he was becoming toxic to his family, and he wasn't getting any help. And then in 2023, there were some things that happened, and I do believe his mom's death was kind of what kind of put him over the edge, because he also lost his residence in 2023. I don't know if that happened before or after his mother passed away, but 2023 was a really, really, really bad year for him. And trauma trigger to PSD, yeah. And so I think he was triggered. And he had his children. It sounds like he was a good dad, even with everything that he was dealing with mentally and everything. They said that he went to their dances. He showed up. He was a dad that showed up, wanted to be involved in their life. And this is why she feels like something must have just broke him that day, because she said everything was normal. Everything was normal. He came to pick them up on time. He told her that he'd have them back by 8 o'clock. Nothing out of the ordinary that had, but he failed to show back up at 8 o'clock. And she knew immediately something was wrong. And she was begging and pleading for an Amber Alert. She needed an Amber Alert. Can you imagine how desperate Whitney was? Begging and pleading and hearing that it didn't rise to this level. And I don't even know if she blames, well, yeah, I think she does blame law enforcement in part, but the system, even the system with the Amber Alert system, it was just a total, that's what's so sad about these cases. When you look back, it's a whole bunch of mistakes that happened in such a way that created a perfect storm of destruction, and then we're here. I think courts have blame in this as well. I do too. I know she might have, we don't know their area. It looks like a smaller area. So she may personally know the judge, or, know some of the people in the community, and doesn't want to say anything negative about them. Because, in all fairness, the judges, they're saddled with fairness, that's what they're saddled with. And what we're finding out with Travis is he wasn't violent toward his wife. He wasn't violent toward his children. So he wasn't an abuser. This was truly unexpected. She knew his health was diminishing, but I really don't think she ever thought, even when he didn't drop them back off at 8, I think she was more concerned with him probably taking all of them out at once. That's what leads me to the question above. Really, it is. Because he's been disoriented, he's been caught on camera, before these children went missing. They're proclaiming he was disoriented. A disoriented person is not, in my opinion, a person that's capable of planning something and putting stuff out in the woods. I feel like they're looking at all possibilities, which is a good thing. But I'm looking at probability, and what they're describing of a man, and what Whitney is describing about Travis is not one that's boating with planning. It sounds like he's losing his stuff. Disoriented, shouldn't have children in their care. They're not of sound mind. Well, I think she knew that he was getting worse, and she conveyed that to the courts. I think it started becoming obvious, maybe, probably just appearance wise. But I don't think it rose to the level of restricting him being able to see his children. I mean, think about it. This lady's going to the courts. She's telling the courts he's never abused her, he's never abused their children, but he has mental illness. People with mental illness doesn't equal violent. Okay. Yeah, there are people with mental illness that are violent, and they do, take some news time, and that's what we kind of see when it comes to mental illness. But there's people that have a lot of mental illness walking amongst us that aren't violent. That's not the violent part of it is usually the outlier, not being violent, or not being violent. The outlier in mental illness is the violence, and with some degree. I mean, there are some diagnoses that really don't bode with kindness. I suffer from mental illness. Treatment helps a lot. Yeah. And, you're not a violent person. You're not going to go out there and do that. Untreated people, untreated mental health. Untreated mental health can be problematic. But, so can dementia. A lot of people don't realize people with dementia can be very violent. And it's not their fault either, right? Because they're truly in fear. They have dementia. They don't know who you are, and you're putting your hands on them. It's as if a stranger is trying to kidnap them. So that's going on in their head, right? So when you have somebody with dementia and they act out, they can hurt people. They can injure people, but in all fairness, it's not their fault because they're acting in self-defense. Statements mom made, don't remember right now exactly where. I'd have to go look. I know they had a New York Post about some of the statements the mom made. I'm searching for other. It sounds like there were other places that had more in-depth conversation, or maybe they posted some more information out about that interview. Hi, Christina. It's nice to see you. When I went to get guardianship of my grandchildren, the judge said being homeless was not a reason to lose children. Mental health was not either. However, there are other reasons I was able to. Yeah. Because just because you're mentally ill, I mean, there's a lot of people that have mental illness, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and they live happy, successful, healthy lives with some help with just simple medication and a medication regimen. And but there's a lot of people. I didn't realize, like, you think of psychopaths as being, like right, but I didn't realize that there are a lot of people that are classified as psychopaths that don't have the violent tendencies. And I wasn't aware of that. I had no idea. I'm thinking, I still don't want to be around them. No offense. You treated or untreated. Thank you, but no thank you. Right? Sorry. Not to be offensive. But, I didn't realize that. But there's a lot of people that are diagnosed with psychopathy, I think is what they call it. Then you'd like to know. And I'm going to leave it at that. This mother did everything she did, and so did he. That's the crazy. That is like the crazy twist to the story. He did too. He knew he was conscious enough to know that he was not well for his family, so much so that he initiated the divorce. He initiated it so his family could thrive. He had been begging. From everything I'm understanding, this man, He fought very hard for services to help him with his mental illness. He tried. He had been trying. He had been trying, and kept getting the door slammed in his face, failure after failure. That's what that's what Whitney is describing. She's got no reason to lie to us. Just speaking in general terms here, parents too often play amateur psychology. Take your kids to get evaluated. If you see concerning signs, you can always make your case to a psychiatrist. Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but parents, if there's a possibility, why wouldn't you want to get it early and start finding out treatment so your child can have the most normal life? A lot of parents keep thinking their children are going to grow out of it. You don't grow out of mental illness, and it's because they don't realize it's mental illness that they're seeing, and they're watching their children getting depressor, and you would think that parents would want their children to be happy and thriving, but there's still this stigma on mental health, and I just wish there wasn't. And I wish parents would identify it early on, and some do a great job, or many do a great job, right? We need to create a petition for our vets to receive the best health care they can. Yeah, but definitely upstairs, the top-notch upstairs, because you got to think, can you imagine going overseas and seeing some of the stuff that they have to see? We have to, even though we don't understand it and we're not having to see it in real life, we're being conditioned to some of the atrocities through social media that gives us a front row seat, but it's still not the same as having the front row seat. And just the act of war is enough. If they are active in that engagement, that's enough to really disrupt. And a lot of these kids go into the military at 18 before their brains are fully developed. So some of these people don't even realize they have underlying mental health issues that aren't realized until they're in their mid-20s. And they're being hit with what they have witnessed from 18 to their mid-20s, and now they're being hit with their unknown mental diagnosis that is now rearing its ugly head in the mid-20s. So there's just things like people don't understand that, and I think that is what happened here. I think he always had mental health issues that was probably something he inherited from one of his parents or other family members in his lineage. And then, of course, it wasn't realized until he started hitting his mid-20s, or, somewhere in the 20s is where I hear that some of like the schizophrenia, personality disorders start kicking in. If you guys have other information, let me know, but that's just my understanding. And so I'd have to think that he had the trauma of active military in Afghanistan, and then coupled by the mental health, the inherited mental health stuff probably started kicking in right about that same time, and it just started, spinning very slowly but progressing rapidly as it was progressing. And so I think that within 2 years we're here where we're at now. But again, I'm just piecing this together. That's my assessment so far. There might be some information that I do find that leads me down a different avenue. So what do you guys think? Do you think he is here or not? Let me go up here and see if I can read some comments here. I'm dealing with family members with BPD, and they have stolen over $100,000 worth of stuff and refused any treatment. Everyone else has the problem. Wow. Well, yeah, you can't treat the people, and sometimes if they refuse treatment, they're just going to have to be held accountable or forced treatment somehow. And we have mechanisms in our law to force treatment of somebody that's in that could injure themselves or others. Mm, let's see here. Yeah, they do. My son is a veteran and is suffering from it, all with no help. We're hearing this, since she has come out with her plea for more funding for mental health in VA. I have received a lot of emails from people that have family in VAs, and they are explaining to me there is no help. This is not. This is a true story. Like, she's not exaggerating. She's not exaggerating. So I've received a lot of those types of emails. Just speaking in general terms here, parents too often plow. Yeah, we already got that one. If I suffer from mental health and don't get help, everyone around you suffers. That's true. But he identified that even as he was as he was starting to diminish mentally, he had at some point knew it was best to remove himself out of the situation and limit his contact with his family. It sounds like he's understanding that it wasn't getting any better. I don't know. It just gives me it gives me a different perspective of Travis knowing these details about him. And it also, I'm going to read a couple comments and we're going to get to what I think I found. I had a conversation this morning about ASD, about this exact thing, and I'm like early intervention is key, and that's what I think, and that's what the problem was, is that they were trying to get an early intervention and failed. There should be more done. We could go all day on the issues with this case. If you guys know anything about me, I just kind of tell you how I feel about a situation. Could I be wrong? Of course I can be wrong. This is just my assessment. This is an opinion. This is taking a lot of different things into consideration when I'm analyzing the case. And so right now we have a manhunt. Okay, the law enforcement has conveyed to us they believe he unalived his children and has the ability to live in the woods off the grid for significant time. They say that he would and is knowledgeable of catching, which is basically strategically placing supplies in a path of travel that you're going on, so you can have breaks and have water and resources that you're going to need while you're hiking. So they're describing something planned. Maybe flashbacks, but he didn't zip tie hands, and yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. Something happened, and I kind of think I have an understanding on it as well with that aspect. But again, still seeking a lot of more information to make sure that I'm honing in on the right stuff. But what we are now learning, especially in light of Whitney's statements and giving us a little insight on who Travis is as a person, he doesn't sound like he's this, horrible monster that unalived just 3 kids. It sounds like there were things that got us to this point that could have been prevented, right? That where he could have been a happy, healthy man and father to his children, but because of this system that failed him, the brain controls a lot. We talk about that on this channel a lot. And when you have a sick brain, it can cause problems for the entire body and make you do a lot of stuff. But what we're described, let me just try to get through it without going off and trying to give you guys a lot of backstory. We're describing a man that loves his family and is unraveling and spinning out of control and begging for help, and there's no help. He was trying to keep his life together with minimum wage type jobs just to keep a roof over his head. But as his illness progressed, his inability to even keep those meager jobs was becoming very difficult for him. At some point in 2023, he lost his job and he lost his mother. And he was spinning out of control. And so his ex-wife wanted to limit visitation. They allowed him to have him for 3 hours on Fridays and 8 hours over the weekend, but no overnights, as long as he stayed in the county. And so he was in this Rock Island campground. As you can see, this is temporarily closed, and I think it's temporarily closed because I truly believe they are still actively searching this area, and with good reason. I truly believe that they are right. He did have a mental break, and they probably are right. He ended up fully breaking May 30th. Everything seemed normal. But days leading up to this visitation, he was seen on cameras, on Ring doorbell cameras, acting disoriented and just weird, odd behavior. Now, this is I've got to do some research and hone in on specifically where the girls were found. They were found out here in a ditch somewhere. All 3 of them, bags, zip tied, and not too far from the vehicle. The vehicle has electronics in it. Those electronics have been collected and sent for analysis and are already undergoing analysis as we speak. But you're talking about a man mentally breaking down, and I think he's out here. I really do. I don't think he's away from here. We haven't received any evidence that he left the area or had the ability to have another vehicle. You're talking about a father that loved his family, a father that divorced his wife so his family could thrive because he was breaking down a lot. He felt like his family deserved better. He was in that mindset, okay? And things kept spinning out of control from that point forward. Now he's brought, whether or not it was psychosis that caused this event, at some point he has knowledge of what he did to his children, okay? I think him, with the love he had for his family, I truly believe he's not living with himself, okay? I believe that, something could have happened where one of the girls could have just said something that was triggering, and then boom, that's all it took. And he just went into this, this trance state. It is possible. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I'm trying to understand, and I'm trying to convey what could have happened. Now, out here, I feel like this may have been someplace he had brought the girls before. He might know something. They did find the girls near his vehicle. That means he's without vehicle. Law enforcement believes he's on foot. Law enforcement believes he's out in the woods and in the mountain and on the run. I don't. I'm not one of those people that believes he's on the run. I think that they need to be changing the mindset to a recovery mission for Dad as well. I don't know why I have that feeling, and we should be vigilant. Because we don't know. I mean, he could have absolutely be out there trying to duck, bob, and weave law enforcement, which tells me that he absolutely knows what he did and did it intentionally. Just my opinion. And that's just is. Granted, he has mental health, but it goes outside of his his other normal, not so normal behavior. we're just in a situation here where my heart breaks for the mother. The father needs to get off. They need to find him. But I feel, me personally, just my opinion, everything that we're hearing about Travis, I just don't see how he's going to survive this. You know, he had a mental breakdown that his children lost their life. I don't know how he's going to survive this. I don't think he's going to allow himself to survive this, is what I'm trying to say. Nobody knows if someone in the area was setting off fireworks or, you know, pew-pews to have that man flashbacks. That could be true. I mean, out here they it might be hunting. Do we know if it's hunting season? Does anybody know if they have hunting season and when those hunting season is? I mean, this is out in desolate. I don't know if they're. I would assume that it being this, that they would be able to, maybe not in the campground, but you know, in the you know, out there in the wilderness. I wonder if they're allowed to, you know, target practice or not. It could have been something loud. It could have been something loud. Could have been a tree breaking. You know, sometimes trees just break and go boom. His bag, cable ties prepared and ready. It's planned, in my opinion. I guess we can't look past that, Rod. You're right. Well, grocery bags would be anywhere. But the cable ties, yeah, the zip ties. Yeah, that's... Where did he get those? Yeah, I guess we are overlooking some of the basic information. You're right, Rod. That's a good point. That is a good point, and it's something I overlooked. That's just sad. I don't know with the zip ties though, because I mean, if I walk into my living room, let me just show you. This is me. I'm a content creator. Let's go take a walk. I'm a content creator, okay? And this is how, and these stay in my vehicle. They do. The only reason why they're in here is because I needed them for... Oops. Those stay in my vehicle. So, and I have all different sizes, and I have little screwdrivers and everything. And like I said, I needed a couple zip ties because I had to change a fan up here, and I needed a zip tie for the swag kit for a reason. It just worked out better. And so I went and grabbed them and got that taken care of, and they're out of the car, and I just need to put them back in the car. But they came from my vehicle, and I'm a content creator. I'm a traveling content creator, but I'm a content creator. So I mean, I don't know if I can personally, because of my personal experience, I don't know if I can personally state that the zip ties could equate premeditation, because I've got them. And think about it, he's homeless, and they're so versatile. And you can pick them up at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. Dollar store, $1.25 Dollar Tree store. The $1.25 store. There we go. That's the way that the cat lady on TikTok says it. So is Velcro. Yeah. But Velcro's not as versatile as zip ties, especially like camping and stuff like that. And zip ties are really the way to go. That's why I have them, is because of all the rallies I went to and camping out. That's why I have the zip ties that I have in the car. And that's why they're in the car, because the only time I need them is when I'm camping, and sometimes I don't know if I'm camping out. Sometimes it's spur of the moment, you know. Too many zip ties, Betty. You're scaring me. Well, if I start producing some handcuffs, then you can start getting scared, okay? Then I went from Prudy Betty to woohoo Betty. I think we're getting off topic. But still, I do. I think this is a vast area, and I think at some point he just. I mean, I'd have to think he had to look down and snapped out of it and just realized what he had done and just took a long walk, you know? I don't know. I don't feel that. Some of these times I always say, like Brian Laundrie, I'm like, he's too much of a coward to do it. And look how wrong I was about that, you know? I was for sure that POS was on the run. And he was, 500 feet from me, several times during my searches out there in Myakkahatchee Environmental Park. And, let's not and you know what? Let's not forget the Brian Laundrie case, right? I don't know who found, that's a good question, Patty Lee. That's a good question. I think it was a tip that was called in. Or maybe that's where they usually go, and they just drove around the campsite until they found the truck, because I heard they weren't too far from the truck. That's a good question. Well, I've definitely got my work cut out for me with this case, the Decker case. That's why I want to make sure I'm directing everybody over to Crime Stories, because this is the last Decker story on this channel. We've got too much information, that we're going to be pushing out on Sebastian Rogers' case, as well as Lily and Jack's case, that we're going to use the main channel to advocate for those two cases. We're taking the Decker sisters and moving them over to the Bullhorn Betty Crime Story show. So if you guys have not said, and I'm not doing a live over there today, but the same rules over there are going to apply. So we're going to have it, one day to comment. So the only way that your guys are going to get over there and be able to communicate with the coffee club tomorrow is if you sub up. So if you haven't subbed up yet, get over to Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories and get that subbed up so you guys don't miss anything over there related to the Decker sisters. And of course, you guys can always sign up to my TikTok channel. I think the one I did yesterday, I mean, the Decker sisters over on TikTok, there's a lot of interest over there. I think one of my videos has already hit 100,000 views or something like that. With the U.S. Marshals searching, they will find him. I hope so. But again, my concern is they're looking for a man running, just like they did in Brian Laundrie's case. And I've learned a lot in Brian Laundrie's case, enough to say, wait a minute, we need to look at the mental health and the stuff we didn't know. Well, we're starting to learn a little bit about that. And I'm wondering, are they on a wild goose chase when he's right under their nose? And maybe I'm thinking he's more in this area because this is this whole thing, the vehicle, it's the vehicle, y'all, because I feel like that was the critical, in Brian Laundrie's case, when they found the car in the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park, that was ground zero, the vehicle, because that was his only mode of transportation. And law enforcement started searching. They weren't producing at the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park, where he was found, where he ended up ultimately being found. Okay, just letting you know. There was another fugitive 45 minutes away on the other side in the Carlton Reserve, which is attached to the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park. They upended their entire search near ground zero, where they found the car, where they absolutely 100% know he was last at. And they moved it 45 minutes north into Venice to the Carlton Reserve. And they opened the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park back, again, where he ended up ultimately being found. So my concern is I don't want them missing Travis. I don't want them missing Travis because they decided to make a strategic decision that moves the search out of that area. Because if there's any spot, if this is a regular place that he goes with his children, if there's any beautiful spot that he walks his children to or goes and takes them to play in that area, they need to heavily be saturating that area. Because when Brian was found, where he was located was a favorite spot of him and Gabby's to hang out. So it had a personal meaning. That's where I'm at, Patty Lee. That's why I keep asking these questions, because I'm telling you, I'm starting to get Brian Laundrie vibes. But again, I don't want to be distracting from the manhunt or people, not being hyper vigilant, because he looked one way, and if he truly did plan this, which I'm sorry guys, his past behavior and who he is as a person and the way Whitney describes him, and yes, I just don't see him. I see him being hopeless and helpless, not somebody in preparation to go hide out in the woods for 2 months. Okay, I'm seeing this story much differently than law enforcement is seeing it. I just am. I feel some type of way about this. Yeah, Danilo Cavalcante, escape 5, search, walk. Yeah, but see, that's why I think people are feeling this way. But Danilo Cavalcante was an evil individual. He unalived his girlfriend, the mother of his kids. And I think he came over here and did the same thing. I mean, that man is an evil, evil man. Travis Decker is not a Cavalcante. And that's what's so wild and bizarre about this Decker sister case, is we're not dealing with evil here. I know it seems like it. 3 girls gone. It seems pretty demonic and pretty evil. But I don't know how to describe it to you, that what I'm seeing and feeling and hearing from this case, that's not it. And if I felt that evil, demonic notion in this case, then I would say we have ourselves a manhunt, right? He's on the run. But what we're hearing, that this man loved his children and his family. But the one thing that's holding me back on and I have to vocalize it. The one thing that's holding me back on the unaliving thing that makes me feel we may have a manhunt underway, is I look at him as prior to learning about all the substantial information about him, and predominantly him divorcing Whitney, him initiating the divorce of Whitney, really does show something to me about him. And so I made an assessment that he's a family annihilator early on. And I do believe that assessment is accurate. But the problem with family annihilators is I have not found a family annihilator that has classified as family annihilator that has unalived himself. Okay? We had that Todd guy, what was his name, in Orlando. He ended up unalive, even the dog. even the dog, Todd, T-O-D-T, whatever his name was. You know, I can classify Alec Murdaugh as another one, family annihilators. And I classify this one as well. He's dangerous fugitive soldier or not. He is. But I I don't believe he's on the run. I think he's deceased out here. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like somewhere along, I think he's somewhere here within 2 to 5 miles of wherever the girls were. And that's generally my thing. When we're looking for kids, like this area here, I'd say 20, 30, or 40 miles. But for him, walking on foot, we know he's on foot. I don't see where he would have had, if he can't afford a place to live, he's not going to be able to afford a secondary vehicle. And if there was a secondary vehicle, they'd have the make and model out there on every single news broadcast available, you know, hunting him down. So we're looking at a man on foot. You know, everything that they're describing survival skills out in this wilderness. And I'm sorry, I do believe he's out in the wilderness, much like the law enforcement, but I don't believe he's running. I think one of the reasons why they're not picking up anything on the heat is because he's not, just like Brian Laundrie. He's deceased. He's out there. They're missing him. I think they're missing him. And we know from the Brian Laundrie case how good helicopter, use is, because you can't see anything unless you have the heat. But if you have a deceased individual, Frank, there were no vultures for Brian Laundrie. I believe the same thing. We've talked about it on this story, and not only that, but we also had Kathleen Moore in Pasco County. I was out there. She was, I kept saying, she's back there, she's back there, she's back there. She was 2 doors down, wrapped in a mattress, no bird activity. The most bird activity there were like, I think 3 crows on one house that was, not his neighbor's house. Not the 2-door neighbor. I think it was like on the corner or something. I remember looking at the crows and I'm like, I remember saying, something about crows just give you the EBGBs as I'm walking, down the road, knocking on people's doors and, letting them know that we have a person, check your backyards, check anything, have you noticed anything missing, blah, 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 have you seen her, yada, yada, yada. And then as we're pulling out of town to go to Summer Wells' case, she was uncovered. She was found exactly where we said she'd be found. And no birds there. Brian Laundrie, every single day, twice a day, I was out there in the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park in the mornings before I went in front of the laundry house, and I was there after I left the laundry house to do more searching in the afternoon. I was at the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park and Carlton Reserves twice a day. I went to the Carlton Reserve, then the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park. Because Carlton Reserve was shut down, I searched the Myakkahatchee Creek Park in the mornings. I went over to the laundries, did my thing around the laundry's house, went out, went investigating, door knocking, and went to shops and stores to see if they'd seen any of the family during the day. And then when we were wrapped up at their house, I'd stop back by the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park, check around, see if there was any movement or anything out of the ordinary that wasn't there before. And then I'd make it to the Carlton Reserve, hang out there, get with the news people out there to see if anything happened during the day, talk to some of the law enforcement, and then I got in and went home and went to sleep and got up the next day and did the same thing over and over again. And he was at the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park, literally 1,500 yards from where his vehicle was. No bird activity, no noise, nothing that would identify, nothing circling above, nothing. There was nothing. And trust me, that's what I was looking for, because when I was out there, I'm like, just look up, where are the birds? No birds. The one thing I can tell you out there that we heard that we could never figure out, and it might have been the flies on him, because we kept hearing this buzzing sound. Bzz, but it wasn't it was insect buzzing. It was not electrical lines. Like there was a whole like electrical road that it was I can't remember what they called it, but it was just where they ran the electrical lines, the big electrical lines through this big walking trail and stuff like that. I think it's called Trail Line Road, actually, Trail Line Road. And you can hear some, the shocking from the power going through those, but it was a different kind of buzzing, and it drove us nuts. And we could never find the source of that buzzing. And I always thought it was the flies on Brian Laundrie, because there were times we came that close to him and just didn't realize he was there. We were like 500 feet away from him at certain times in our searches. But we kept hearing this like, wings. You guys know what I'm talking about, like bees, like when you have a swarm of bees, you hear this like low key buzzing, and it's all of their wings flapping. But because there's so many of them flapping, you hear this like low pitch from the wings. Damn, the vultures didn't even want to know. And that was the crazy thing, because like you, Frank, that's what I've always been taught. If there's something large and it's dead, look up. You'll see them circling. I've been taught, I'm from the country. I've been taught that my entire life. So, I got to the point where I didn't think Brian Laundrie was out there. We were out there since like 2 or 3 days after he disappeared. We've never seen any type of bird activity that we were told to look for when something is dead. Nothing. And it sounded like the wildlife. Maybe the reason why we didn't get that. This sounds awful. I'm sorry. Trigger warning, guys. This might upset you a little bit, so you might want to turn your volume down. But the wildlife might have gotten a hold of him so quickly that there was not a big enough whatever to get the vultures. But I mean, we see the vultures with a little bird on the side of the road. You usually have 2 or 3 of them right there. So I don't know why we didn't see them for the humans. But for the two bodies that I've had personal and direct experience with, which is Brian Laundrie's and Kathleen Moore's, neither one of them had bird activity. I don't know what to say. Neither one. And I was literally, and you know what? The decomp, the smell, I was standing literally in front of one of the houses where Kathleen's body was on the other side of it. And there, I had no scent of decomp. None. And there was nothing other than her being in a roll-up mattress cover that, but I think these things are important, because I think, we're told things and are in perspective, and we don't know because we don't have the experience. But when I do have the experience, it does differ, a little bit than, I don't know. So Brian's supposedly underwater for a while. No. And that's another thing. In the Carlton Reserve, that was the swamp. They were up to their chest in water. Where Brian was in the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park. Yes, there was some flooding in there. The flooding was up to like our ankles. I mean, it wasn't up to the chest in where Brian was. Was there water and was there flooding? Yeah, but it was probably, I don't know, 6 inches, maybe. I don't know, about that much water in certain spots of the ground. I didn't have to swim out there. I didn't have to have, like boots. My feet did get a little wet at times, depending on where I was walking. But the whole park was like that. But it wasn't, you didn't need a boat. I mean, and it didn't come up to my knees. I think maybe some may have came up to maybe my shin on my, and I'm short. If anybody's seen me, I'm short. I'm short as crap. Oh, shut up, VA. Yes, I remember the snake, but it wasn't out there. That was in North Carolina. That was in North Carolina. And I about to shit a brick. Oh my gosh, I never wanted that right there. I think there for a second I was in shock. I don't think I realized it, but I think there for a second, especially when I first realized I had a snake and I started kicking my feet. I think I was in shock for a second because I'm telling you, I didn't know if that snake bit me. I didn't know. I mean, I'm short too. I know. Don't worry. We have an entire coffee club group that's short. We're the bright ones. We brighten up everybody else because everybody else is above us. Yep. So, but how did his parents find it? I honestly believe that when they had to go out there and pick up the car, I think that they went out there looking for their son. I think they found him. And I think they went and cocooned themselves because they knew that this case was crazy. They had already seen the people, online and everything else. People were starting to circle their house at the time. And I think that they went and hunkered down and just assumed law enforcement would find him. They were out there. They had the largest manhunt in Florida history for Brian Laundrie. I think his parents just hunkered down and just knew any day they would find him. But the days kept going on week after week, and they got, us in the front yard screaming at him, wanting to know what the heck happened. What do they know? We knew that they had already hired an attorney before Brian was even back here. People didn't know that. They kept thinking we were just pulling stuff out of our butt. We did a full-fledged investigation while we were out there in front of Brian Laundrie's house. We knew everything about that case, inside and out. We even went out to the DeSoto Park, and I went straight the lot that they had. I went and looked at. I previewed. I've seen where they could have gone out in the water. Everything that we could do to hunt down any lead or information in this case, we absolutely did. But we got into DeSoto Park, where Brian Laundrie and his parents and his sister and the family all met. I was standing in that lot where they were at. I was standing right there. And we looked at it. Could they have tossed some of the evidence out there in the water? Yeah, they could have. I mean, they were close enough to the water that they could have tossed something. A firearm was ultimately found there, near there, at the time that they were in and around that place, but it didn't come back to them or anything else. I remember that. I don't know. But it does remind me of that, and let's face it, Brian Laundrie was 1,500 yards from his vehicle. 1,500 yards from his vehicle. And this went on for 5, almost 6 week manhunt. And he remained 1,500 yards from where his vehicle was found for the 5 or 6 weeks until they found him. I really think they need to saturate the area in and around that truck, because there's something in me that just feels like he's right here. He's right here. Right here. That's where he's at. And I don't think he's going anywhere. And I think the reason why they're not getting movement and getting, sweat and scent from him is because I think he's not moving. I think that this is only going to be, he's only going to be found by ground search in and around this area, but I don't think he's that far from his children. I really don't. I don't know why. And I may be, this is just my opinion, and we may find out I am so far off base, it's not even funny. But at the end of the day, that's how I feel. So we're going to keep monitoring law enforcement, getting the information out. letting people know that Travis Decker is still on the run. We want him found. We don't want him, out there to harm anybody or, continue to go untreated. So we still want to make sure everybody is aware of who he is, where he's from, what path of travel he made. But this is another thing. We have no path of travel for him. Law enforcement's not saying he's going northeast, west, south. They have not provided us any scintilla of proof that he's even moving. There's no trail cam footage. They're giving us footage, and it makes us feel like he's moving because he's on somebody's. But that was before the girls were found. That was before the girls were even unalived. That was days before the girls were unalived. So we have had no footage. We've had no camera sightings. We've had nothing to even indicate he's moving. And if he is moving, law enforcement should have a direction so we can start sending our, resources, and people can start being hyper vigilant in certain areas and keeping their eyes in there. But they're saying that they believe he has survival skills. We're not denying that. I'm just thinking this is not a survival skill type of a situation. This is a helplessness, he's got nothing left type of a situation. I think they're looking left when they need to be looking right. That's all I'm saying. Where did he leave the girls when he appeared in that video? I don't think he had them at that time. From my understanding, this was before he got the girls. Remember, he got them at 5. By 8 o'clock, they were gone. They were deceased. So this was, from my understanding, a couple days. My heart just breaks for this mama. I don't know how the mom's functioning. I mean, she's got to be. It's hard because this is a man that she loves, He fought for our country, and she got a very, very broken man back. A broken man that gave everything for this country, and the country shit on him. Let's talk about that. Not that it justifies this, but obviously he's not in his right mind. And I absolutely believe that. He is not in his right mind. If his ex-wife ever thought, I mean, she's talking about he's never been violent. I doubt anybody in his sphere could ever think that when he did not return those girls back at 8 o'clock, that this was going to be the outcome. I doubt anybody thought that. Ever. So, I don't know. We'll just keep you guys posted on any information. I pray to God they find him. If you guys hear that they find him, reach out to me right away so we can run breaking news on this case. This man right here, in my opinion, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this case. I'm not seeing this evil, vindictive, on the run man. I'm seeing a man that has just lost everything. And not to the point where I feel like he is, this, like, law enforcement, I don't know. I just feel some type of way. I think he's deceased. I think he took his own life. I'm sorry, I do. That's just how I feel about it right now. Until law enforcement can give us a direction of travel or some proof that he's still moving, I believe he's deceased. I believe that they're out there looking for him. I think this is going to be another recovery mission. I really do. So keep the whole family in your thoughts and prayers. Now that I have a little more information about Travis Decker, I feel bad about this whole situation. I really do. I don't know what to say. All right, guys. Well, that's kind of our show. I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed something, learned and enjoyed about these cases. Not that we enjoy covering these cases, but just enjoy the true crime aspect of the case and the hunt for the truth. We have 3 cases here that we just went over, and that was Sebastian Rogers, Lily and Jack Sullivan, and of course the 3 Decker girls. We have to remember that these are real lives. These are real life tragedies. These are real live people. These are real live human beings. And I really hope we advocate for the truth. Sometimes the stuff we talk about is very, it can be hurtful for somebody that's too close to the case or too close to the investigation. I feel really bad for the situation Whitney is in. And you know what? It's still at the end of the day, I kind of hope that he is gone and doesn't have to put Whitney through anymore, because this is just heartbreaking. My position is still the same, even with in light of the new information, but I truly do feel bad for him. I do believe that if he is alive, he's most likely going to spend the rest of his life in a psychiatric hospital. I don't think he'll ever get out. Not like that's really the life or humane for a man that gave so much for this country. I'm sorry, I just don't. There's going to be no good answer here. There's going to be no good resolution. This is just going to be another tragic case that breaks all of our hearts. So we'll keep you updated if any information becomes available. God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you soon.